Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where Executive Coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hey there, leaders. It's Alicia Cowan, and I want to welcome you to episode number 9 of the Executive Coaching Podcast. As I'm recording this, it's mid-March 2023, and we have just wrapped up spring break week. Spring break week for the kids, since we're a blended family, meant them traveling to see their mom, and we had a week without them. And so we had an adult spring break here in Tampa, Florida, which consisted of my husband and I going to a couple new restaurants in town. We went to a place called the Pearl in Tampa. And when we left Columbus, Ohio, there was a Pearl in downtown in the short north in Columbus, Ohio that we loved. And luckily for us, they followed us here and opened a restaurant here downtown, and we went and checked that out on Saturday. Had some great oysters. Highly recommend it if you're in the Tampa area or the short north area of Columbus. Go check it out. We also went to Pop Shot. I think that's the name, but it's Tiger Woods' new concept where it's like this mini putting greens where you can go and play kind of upscale putt golf. And my husband, my mother-in-law, and I all went. I came in second, so not too shabby because I'm not really a golfer. And then we went and checked out our houses. So our house is in progress, and we got the stuff to put the roof on. And we went to see my mother-in-law's house, which is also right across the street in another neighborhood where she purchased a new build home as well. And so got to see that in the process of getting drywall. So all very fun and exciting this past week. And so now we are fully ready to dive into talking about how you're feeling at work, frustration you might be having with your employees. And I'm going to talk a little about how to handle that. So I want to talk about this because this came up for a client this week. And so I want to help you. If you are an executive and you are just feeling super frustrated or emotionally distraught because your employees this week, I want to unpack that for you. Let's talk about it. So if you've been in a situation where you've been in knots about your people. So I had a client this week reach out and said, I am paying people to treat me like shit. And really just ended up in a place where she's so frustrated and so tense. And she was sitting in her office, just kind of ruminating and spinning. And the situation was that someone had responded in an email in a way that she just wasn't happy about. She was not pleased about the response that she got. And so she was showing other people the email, trying to interpret the tone of what was said or unsaid in this email. She was thinking through a response and carefully crafting a response and sharing that response with others and trying to see if it was appropriate or not, and trying to guess about the intent of the email that she was responding to. And just really was spinning and staying in knots. And that was the result. She stayed in knots about the whole situation, and really just could not get out of it. Right. And so that's where, again, she went to the bat phone call or sent me a text, actually, and was trying to figure out, what do I do? And so maybe you're finding yourself in this similar situation where you're just frustrated about how your employees are either behaving or not behaving at work. And I want to tell you, there is a way to move through this, right? And I think that a lot of times we have this expectation around how others need to behave at work. We have these set of rules and regulations. And this is different than having expectations about the work. But we have this set of rules and regulations that we don't necessarily tell people about how we want them to behave, or tell people how they should interact with us in the workplace. And we get really frustrated and emotionally tied to it if they don't behave in the way that we want them to. Okay. And like I said, a lot of times we're not sharing with them upfront what this looks like. We're just kind of having these beliefs in our head, and then we get really frustrated when they don't behave the way we want them to. Okay. In this situation, like, again, as I was texting this client, we were talking through it, and she was talking about the fact, she's like, well, I just would never say this to my direct supervisor. I would never have done this. I'm like, well, again, you're human, and humans get to behave however they decide is best and the way they see fit. And you're not the same person, right? You're different. And I think that we have a lot of time these expectations as a supervisor, and then we tie our emotions to it, right? Whether or not they behave in a certain way. So I'm going to tell you, there is a way that as a supervisor, you can move through having clear expectations and clear consequences. And if employees don't meet those expectations, and again, this is a set of job criteria or, expectations of behavior, maybe it's your culture, your values, and the way that you want people to behave, you can have that in the workplace. And you can also set the clear process for feedback on whether or not they're meeting those expectations. You can set the clear consequences, the levels of accountability, and that can include anything from a verbal warning, a written warning, up to a termination of employment, whether or not they're meeting those expectations or not. And all that's fine. The difference there is when you get emotionally reactive to whether or not they meet those things or not. So what if I could tell you, so you can have those expectations, and you can also come from a place and have a feeling of like calm, neutrality, and maybe even just curiosity, even if they meet those expectations or not. And if you operate from a place of, okay, as a supervisor, I have very clear expectations of behavior. I've got very clear lines of accountability and consequence to that. You can be in the place of calm. And when you're in that place of calm and that place of neutral experience, as again, you've got that set of expectations, and the employee gets to decide, again, as an adult, they get to decide however they want to act. They get to decide whatever they want to do in the workplace. And again, doesn't mean we don't hold them accountable. But as a supervisor, if you are in that place of calm and you're in that place of neutral thinking, then you can operate from a place of curiosity. Okay. And then what that means and what that could look like is you could find out and ask why they did or did not do the work as expected. You could find out why they interacted with you the way that they did. You could hear them out and ask questions to get their perspective. And then when they respond, you can decide what to do about it. And again, if there's a good reason, or if there's the conversation there, you get to decide what level of accountability that you want to have. Again, it could be not doing anything. It could be giving a warning, could be up to termination, could be deciding to term them. It all depends, right? But I think when we get to a place where we're emotionally reacting, and meaning we think, I'm paying my employees to treat me like shit, rather than thinking, I've got a clear set of expectations, and if they don't follow those expectations, there's consequences, and I can find out why they did or did not meet those expectations. Totally different actions that come from that, totally different feeling that comes from those two different thoughts, right? And you can stay in, that emotional state of anger, frustration, right? Or despair, or you can move to a place where it's not about you. It's not about the business, right? It's about this employee and how they're deciding to act. And so I encourage you, there is a place where you can move from being stuck or feeling like, again, this current client that I had was saying they felt like they just stayed in knots and stayed in their office, ruminated over a response to an email, and really got sucked into a lot of the drama that was unnecessary, right? You can move to a different place just by thinking, okay, I have expectations that are clear for my employees, and I can be curious about why they did or did not meet them. Okay. Totally different feeling of calm, of being neutral, being curious, and not feeling all consumed and burdened by this employee's response. All right. Not always the easiest work to do, but I promise you there is a way and there is a result that you can get to where, it doesn't it doesn't eat you up, is not all consuming, right? And so I want to say a simplistic way to do that is if you have a situation that occurs, a really easy way to do it is to write out what are the expectations of the employee, what things are explicitly said in the workplace, like what things do we have in their job description or our values and our behaviors, what is expected of them, right? And then you can also, if there's things that are not written or not said, right? So maybe it's the tone or attitude or whatever it is that you may be experiencing that hasn't been written out for them and outlined for them. You get to decide, was this something that it was explicitly said to them? And do I have a consequence for it? Or was this something that I expect that wasn't written and wasn't really clear to them? And then that's on me if I wasn't clear around the expectations of the behavior. And do I want it to be within this organization? Is this something that I want to be an expectation of all employees? And you get to decide that. And then from that place, once you have the clear expectations for your employees, you get to decide, do I need to be more clear and transparent? Or do I just need to be curious about where or why they did not meet my expectations in the situation? And then from there, you get to decide, how do I want to feel from that? Do I want to be all consumed with anger and frustration? Or do I want to be, right? And so please know that there is freedom, right? You are not held hostage by your employees and how they're behaving in the workplace. You don't have to respond, right? Especially if you're in a place where you have super clear expectations and very clear consequence and accountability around those things, right? Then you get to lean on the structure and the processes that you've put into place. You do not have to be emotionally reactive to whatever is going on day to day, right? Okay, not easy stuff always, but I promise you, if you need help with this, more than happy to help. If you know someone that is emotionally rocked by what's going on with some of their employees in the workplace, don't hesitate to reach out. This is simple stuff that we can undo through the magic of coaching and the magic of looking at your thought processes and what you have set up in the workplace. All right, friends, this is the quick message, but one I want you to hear because some of you are very emotionally distraught this week by how your employees are behaving. So please know, there's another way to do it. You know where to reach me. If you need some help with this or you know someone who does, reach out to me on my website. It's ElishaKowen.coaching.com. It's ELISIAKEOWN coaching.com. And leaders, go out there and take charge this week. You got this. All right. Talk to you soon. And thanks for listening. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Elisha Cowen. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at ElishaKowenCoaching.com/call.